Hello everyone. I'm going to do a little instructional video here. I've been doing a lot of stuff showing my work right before I actually prime it and then after I prime it, and then some of the things I've done installing parts. But today I'm going to talk about sanding things thoroughly and masking them off, and then whenever you're priming or painting, trying to make sure you get just every angle and crack and crevice covered good. So as some of you that are watching my channel know, I primed the engine bay and outside of the fender well parts here, whatever you want to call them, the Mopar and the radius part. I done that first, and then I ended up doing and I done the cowl at the same time up there. And when I done that, I'd mask off and I taped right underneath here and all the way around the back there, up underneath that, and around this area up to here. And when I primed that, that kept overspray from landing all over down there, and me having to sand all that dry, rough overspray stuff off of something, because it needed to be sanded anyway to get it the primer to stick. But I didn't want to be having to sand something off of a surface that wasn't sanded before. So it was one way I went at it. So anyway, so after I got all that primed, I come back, and to keep from getting primer overspray on top of something I've already primed and making it rougher, and also something that's not sanded. And it's kind of funny how overspray tends to stick better to something that's not sanded than if you put a nice wet shiny coat of paint on something that's not sanded. For some reason, if you put a nice shiny wet coat on there, it'll peel right off. I don't know why, I can't understand it. But you just get overspray on some shiny paint, well, you're going to have a big problem getting it off of there. But so to go back to what we talked about, when I first primed this, like I said, we done all this in here, and I done the hood hinges at the same time. And since I had taped underneath here, that kind of blocked off part of that hinge right there. So I just kind of wrapped some tape over it, and I left a loop to where primer would blow up under it a little bit. And because I knew after I got the engine bay and the cowl panel primed, I was going to come back and do the A-post and the door jamb part. So, to get about sanding, it is a pain in the butt to do it, and you will have sore fingers, and they will probably be bleeding by the time you're done. Happens to me quite often. A lot of times I got to wrap tape around my fingers or wear some nitrile gloves. That tends to help, but they end up getting holes worn in them. But you have to sand just every crack and crevice that you can get to. Sometimes you got to fold up the sandpaper to get in there to make it, to get it sanded. It's a chore. And the main reason why I'm showing people this is so they can get a good quality job and make sure they know paint and primer is going to stick because they've sanded it well. The next reason is, which is more important for someone as a shop owner, is that people always think, oh my gosh, it costs so much to paint a car. And granted, I do this for a fraction of the price of what body shops charge. And but whenever you put so much time and labor into these, and you find out when you actually do it, wow, that's why they charge so much. Because a job like this, replacing all these panels and painting all this stuff, I mean, depending on the shop you go to, you're looking at anywhere from $30,000 to $55,000, and that's here local in Arkansas. I mean, you take it to someplace like David Kindig or Ring Brothers, you're looking at $250,000 just to get in the door probably, So anyway, so that's the part about sanding. So after I got all that primed like we talked about before, and back then I taped up here to keep overspray from going all down there. So when I primed this part, I sanded everything like I talked about. And then I tape on that same area again, but this time I wrap the tape upwards and I cover it. And I come out to about right here and did the same thing. I back taped. I took the 2-inch tape and I stuck it on the back side of this lip all the way around. And I folded it upwards. And I covered all that up. I come around here and since this area here needs to be seam sealed, I went ahead and sanded up to there. Put the primer in there because it's got to be seam sealed all around. All of this, everywhere there. But so I taped and made a loop right here, and then I covered all this up, and I back taped all this with 2-inch tape. And as you've seen in the other videos I had that whole entryway covered up with paper. So, and then I took my masking paper, since I had the 2-inch tape all folded over here, I stuck my masking paper there, and I taped it across up here and down there. And the paper is 18 inches wide, so it laid back to about here. So after it was taped out here, I just lifted this side up, took a piece of 2-inch tape, and I just stuck it to that to hold it up. That way when I'm priming this way, the overspray doesn't fly out there and land in the engine bay. And yeah, it's primer, you can sand it off, but let's say if you'd already had that painted. You know, you don't want primer getting on there because then you got to sand it off and buff it. And that's just labor, money, you know, everything. You got to spend the time to clean off the overspray. You can use compound, buffing pads. It's a lengthy process and it costs money. So that's one reason why I'm showing all this. But anyway, and so, you know, like I said, you gotta make sure everything's sanded good first. And you know, I'll back up and punt here just a little bit. When you first get a car, it's a very good idea to take the thing to a car wash and use the engine degreaser and wash every crack and crevice you can get to. I mean, realistically, you're going to spend $20 to $25 cleaning everything good. Get it all cleaned good. If you got some purple power, take some of that with you and put it in a spray bottle or something, or just, you know, pour it over things and let it soak up. Hush, buddy. I'm doing a video. You know you're not supposed to be in here. No, you're not supposed to be in here. Because you get my tools and you run off with them. Yes, you do. Anyway, back to work. So I've done lost track of what I was talking about. The bad part about being over half a century old. But let me see. Oh, I done forgot. I hate that. So I'll try to recoup here. Well, I'll just go back to what I was talking about. Just make sure you got everything sanded. Oh, I remember now. It was clean it with purple power. Get everything cleaned with purple power. You know, sometimes you can take little nylon scrub brushes and scrub in places, but you need to get everything cleaned good. Get it all cleaned good, and the reason why is silicone from car waxes, Armor All, grease and oil, all that stuff. They contaminate your paint, and if you do not get it off, you're going to have fisheye problems, and you're going to be sorry if you don't get it off. Sometimes it happens, and all you can do is just stop, let it dry, come back and clean it again with some wax and grease remover, or maybe even, if you're sure that the product you put on there is catalyzed and is cured good, you could use a little bit of lacquer thinner, but I wouldn't put it on there very long because it can still soften it up and wrinkle it up. It won't peel off and you'll have even more problems. But so get my point, just clean the car very good everywhere. I mean, every crack and crevice, all up in here, especially in your suspension components up front, because that's the front of the car. It gets most of the dirt. You know, try to get back in your fender wells here. Wash all up inside, every crack and crevice you can, all up under the trunk, just everywhere. Open the trunk, spray inside here, because most people don't ever open their trunks or the doors to wash your car. And pine needles and dirt, whatever else will puddle up around here. And this is what causes rust in your cars. A lot of times you'll get rust here, or rust all across there. And like you can see, that little pocket right in there, what's called the rear package tray or rear deck on some cars. Well, being in the back of the car, you're driving down the road with the windows open. Well, the car's 35 to 50 years old. Well, a lot of crap blows back here. What do you think lands back here? A lot of dust. Then over time, your glass starts leaking. Water runs in, and there's dirt back there. Water and dirt mixed together, they cause rust. And this old paint, as I talked about before, it's pretty porous. Water will soak through it. And that's what causes these to rust out. And like on my 68 Nova, that piece right there was, I think, $145 or $150 just for that little rear deck filler piece. Now, this particular car doesn't have that. It's just got the package tray, but mine had a piece that kind of humps up right across here and filled in that area. But mine was rusted underneath there, and that piece on top was rusted. So, but you know, so to get back about washing good, just make sure it's clean good, and you know, vacuum inside your trunk. Something I did on this car, and I'm not finished with it yet, but this car had a huge gap right here between the quarter panel and the rear trunk drop-off panels. So when I replaced the lower quarter panel sections, I had some pieces that were left over. So I went ahead, and right now these are just some quick tack welds I put on there. They need to be ground down, and I'm going to body work over that and make it look better. But I put this here to keep all that dirt crap from falling down in there, because that is another thing that rusted this particular car out, because there was probably 3 inches of dirt down at the bottom of these quarter panels here. So after I get this body work and everything, I'm going to put behind a seam sealer all the way across there, and that will keep all that crap out of there, and then that will save this car from rusting out the quarter panels again. Hopefully. You know, it's just one extra step that helps a lot. So, this video is going on for a while now. I'm approaching 13 minutes, and it's going to take forever to upload, so just wanted to share that, and again, kind of reiterate, make sure everything's sanded good. If you got a car with paint problems like this, where the paint was peeling, if you have the money, have it media blasted, or, you know, a dustless blasting, and then get some epoxy on it quick. And make sure the people that's doing the work for you know what they're doing, because whatever type of chemical they're using, if it's baking soda or something, you know, some chemicals need to be neutralized before you can put anything on top of them, because the primer will react with whatever chemical was used to take the paint and the rust off, and then your epoxy or your acid etch primer or whatever just won't stick. So if you're not going to media blast it, you can use some 80 grit on a DA or 40 grit on a DA, take it all down. But the bare metal needs to be sanded with, you know, some primer epoxy companies recommend 80 grit on a DA. Others say 180 grit. I've seen some say 220, 320. Everybody's got their preference. As long as it's sanded, then the epoxy will stick. Now, acid etch primer, it's been many years since I've used it. We're talking 28 years. So I'm sure things have changed. But back then, they just told us if we had a brand new piece of steel, just clean it off with lacquer thinner twice. Make sure you use your clean rag each time. And then dry it off good. And put the acid etch primer on there. Wait 30 to 45 minutes, and then put your 2K primer on it. That's what they told us. Like I said, I haven't used acid etch primer, you know, in probably 25 to 28 years. So, you know, I don't know if things have changed on that, but that's one thing. But you know, so get this thing down to bare metal like you need. Get the primer on it, or epoxy. You know, you can use direct to metal primer, but epoxy and direct to metal primer has to be sanded. And if you wait too long, Everybody's got their different opinions. I personally don't like waiting more than 4 hours. Therefore, in my old age, I got to do smaller areas at a time. When I was 20 years old, yeah, I could probably sand the whole back half of this car in 2 hours and then have it taped up in 20, 30 minutes and have the primer on it in another hour. But with old age and bad joints, I can't move that quick anymore. So anyway, I just thought I'd give a little educational video today, and hope it helps out with people. And like always, subscribe to my channel, hit that little bell so you can stay updated. You know, okay, like I always say, I don't know everything, but I know quite a bit, and I like to share what I know and help people. And if you know something you think that I'm doing wrong, or that you know that I'm doing wrong, because times have changed and technology's changed, you know, give me a heads up, give me a tip. You know, I'd appreciate the education. I could use it. So we'll talk to you later. Like the channel, subscribe, share with your buddies, tell all your friends, tell your friends to tell their friends. I appreciate it. Have a good day, everyone.